Everyone's always asking me, what is the best TikTok shop strategy in 2025? And the strategy that's working right now is completely different than what worked even 6 months ago. So there really is no secret, right? It's always changing, it's always adapting. And so what's not a secret though, is that affiliates are still using 2024 tactics in a 2025 market and wondering why their results and therefore their income are inconsistent, right? So since February of 2024, I've never made less than $10,000 per month as an affiliate. And my students like Ashley, Tyreek, Daleen are hitting 20, 30K months consistently using the exact same strategy that I'm about to share with you. Now, I'm not making any sort of income claims, and chances are that won't be most of you watching, but this is the approach that's working now for themselves, for myself, for people who are actually implementing it correctly, right? So what you need to understand is that TikTok Shop has evolved. In fact, 2 weeks on TikTok Shop might as well be 2 years in the actual rest of the world, right? Things are always moving fast. And so the algorithm, it's rewarding different content now. Brands are pickier about who they work with, and the competition has gotten smarter. Still not that great, but smarter, right? So, but that also means that there's new opportunities that most people haven't figured out just quite yet. So in this video, I'm breaking down the complete strategy that's dominating in 2025, why a lot of the old methods aren't working anymore, and exactly how do you implement this for yourself starting today. So transparently, this is the exact system that I teach in my mentorship program. So naturally, I am biased toward this, of course, but at the end of the day, you'll see why it's working so well. It has always worked for me, and it will probably continue to work. So let's get right into it. The very worst thing that you can do as an affiliate is try to promote the exact same products that everybody else is promoting. So for example, everybody's seen, the Dr. Malaxin, the Goalie, all of this stuff, but the secret behind it is you are shooting yourself in the foot if you're trying to rely on making money from a lot of these products. Now, this is going to be contrary to popular belief, but at the end of the day, look at the number of people that you're competing with for a lot of these products. Most of them, it's 3,000, 4,000 people. Because ask yourself, would you rather compete with a lot of professional athletes in a game of baseball and a game of basketball, or would you rather compete against your local rec league team? I don't know about you, I'd rather compete with the local rec league team because you can take advantage of that lack of competition and ride that product up. Because the goal here, again, TikTok Shop is not fair, right? Most of the affiliates that are making the crazy amounts of money that you see, that you hear me talking about, all the specific people in my program, myself, we are becoming the top affiliates for some of these products. So the problem is you got to arrive early to the party, right? You got to get on these products before they're completely oversaturated. Now, again, am I saying that you can't make money with some of these top products? No, I'm trying to act as the casino. I'm trying to be the person where I'm stacking the odds in my favor so that way I can be at the top. And so I'll give you a very specific piece of advice here that honestly I usually don't share on the YouTube. So I'll share here for free, is you have to look at the trends. Now that's a very broad statement. You're saying, Kade, what does that mean? Well, you need to work with the trends that are working this year and not last year. So one of the things that I want you to do is actually start to use something called Google Trends. If you use Google Trends, you can look at trends happening real time. So for example, there was a student in my program that they were talking to me and they're like, hey, what do you think about this sunscreen product? I think it was one of the beef tallow sunscreens or something like that. And I was like, well, let's take a look at my friend Google Trends. So I looked at Google Trends. When you look at the screenshot right here, every single year around June, around July, the demand search for sunscreen goes substantially down. Why? Because it's the end of summertime, right? So that's the kind of thing that I'm talking about when you want to work with the trends, right? You don't want to promote something at the end of its life cycle because its demand is dying down. That's like trying to run on the steepest incline possible on a treadmill. I'd rather, walk downhill on a treadmill as opposed to on the steepest incline possible. And that's what happens when you actually work with the trends and not against them. Now, the second thing that you need to do to actually hit these consistent numbers on TikTok Shop, okay, you found a product, you're doing well with some of the videos, like how do you actually maximize that opportunity, right? So one of the very first things that I do when I start to get any amount of sales for a specific product, they'll ask for more money. You will be surprised the amount of money that you can make just by asking for a commission increase. And it's by recognizing how much an actual 2% revenue increases your earnings by. So let me give you an easy example in terms of the math behind asking for commission increases. So let's say you are getting 20% commission on a product, pretty standard, right? So let's say you now ask for a 5% commission increase. So now they're saying, okay, hey brand, can I go from 20% commission to 25% commission? They say, yeah, sure. Again, they can't say yes if you don't ask them. Don't be afraid to ask. Worst thing they say is no. Who cares? Okay, you're back to where you started. You're still at 20%. They're not going to drop your commission. So by increasing from $2 and $2.50 per product, you are now making 25% more. So by only asking for 5% of the revenue more, you are now generating 25% more in your pocket. What other job, what other area of making money can you ask for a 25, upwards of even 50% increase and you're able to expedite your earnings that much just by asking one simple question, asking one simple message. So I would just like to say most people that watch videos like this get excited about the strategy. Then you go back to doing what you were just doing before, because changing your actual approach takes work and it takes consistency, right? So the students who actually implement the system are the ones that are hitting those consistent 5 and potentially even multi-5-figure months, like the people that I mentioned earlier, right? So to be fair, this is not for everyone, right? So it's for people who want to build a real skill set and take it 100% seriously, not just post products that you think are cool and cute whenever you feel like it and hope for some viral videos. That's fine, but that's a different strategy. So if you are ready to stop chasing trends and actually start creating them on TikTok Shop, the link is in the description. But either way, whether you work with me or not, thinking strategically about building relationships and understanding why all these things work on TikTok Shop instead of making random content, that's the approach to hit consistent months on TikTok Shop. But anyways, back to the video. And the other thing you really want to implement is, again, you want to have videos that actually convert. One of the biggest mistakes that I see tons of affiliates making is you're making content just for the sake of making content that's entertaining. So for example, I see people do this way too many times. If in your hook you're moting into the camera, what is that going to do? You're attracting the wrong audience, because the problem with TikTok is it classifies your content. It puts your content into a bucket, right? So if TikTok sees, oh, this style of person who just wants to be on TikTok for jokes and giggles, they start to see, oh, this kind of person likes your content. So that's why oftentimes you'll see a lot of these affiliates complaining, oh, my video got 1 million views, but it got 0 sales. Okay, well, you probably optimized for entertainment and not education / selling a product or even just solving problems, right? Because TikTok, once they put your content into a certain bucket, they're going to show it to more and more people. So that's why in the beginning, it's very crucial to speak to who you're trying to speak to. I'm trying to speak to people who want to buy a product because they have a certain problem that I'm going to be solving in that video. So the outlandish hooks, the crazy statements, it's not going to do any good over the long term, because you're optimizing for entertainment as opposed to content that's actually converting. Because again, you don't get paid for views, you get paid for people actually buying your product, and they are relevant to who you're trying to speak to. So focus on keeping your content around solving problems and then positioning that product as solving that problem, and just speak to who you're trying to speak to, and not doing all these crazy weird little hooks like spelling things wrong or doing all these little random things that don't actually move the needle in terms of getting converted. One of the biggest reasons why a lot of TikTok Shop affiliates fail is because they don't understand how the TikTok algorithm works. Half of this TikTok Shop is very simple, it is not easy. The reason it's not easy is because you have to understand the TikTok algorithm as a whole. For example, 200 views means that your account is technically healthy, but you're on the wrong products, right? So what most people don't understand is TikTok is a momentum-based platform. So if you're not promoting the right products, if your videos aren't quality, TikTok is going to throttle your views until you go and actually prove to TikTok, hey, my videos are worthwhile me getting more views. So over time, if you are doing things properly, you will see your baseline views start to rise. So for example, for me and for a lot of my students, their average baseline view is 1,000 views per video, because they've proven their worth to TikTok and say, hey, TikTok, if you give us more traffic, in general, we will do more with it than the average affiliate who's throwing stuff at a wall, has no idea what they're saying. They're promoting random products. And that's why you're getting 200 to 300 views, because you're not understanding the algorithm behind it. So it's not just making the best videos. It's not just picking products. It's combining all this together to actually use the algorithm to your advantage. Because when you understand the TikTok algorithm, you're able to almost gain it and show TikTok, hey, you have a much higher chance of going viral, and you're able to use this to your advantage. Now, the other thing that you need to focus on is, again, principles with your TikTok Shop content. I see so many people making videos, and it's funny, all the TikTok Shop tips that you see that go viral, and this just drives me insane personally, but you'll see all these videos on this new algorithm change is happening, this new policy feature is coming out, which hashtags are working the best. You're focused on the wrong things. Those things do not move I've never once personally paid attention to an algorithm update, because it hasn't changed. The algorithm itself has not changed. What will always work and will always continue to work is making the best content that talks about people's problems, that identifies problems, and actually gets that product to be positioned as a solver to that specific problem, right? So if you do that, if you focus on the right principles within TikTok Shop, I've never seen one algorithm change or policy update that's ever affected me. People will freak out over all these small things, but those are the things that don't actually make a difference and actually move the needle. Instead of worrying about all these random little algorithm changes, what you need to do is, again, focus on the blueprint of how you create content based on direct response marketing that actually gets people to buy things. And when you learn how to do that, even if there is an actual algorithm change, which in my opinion, over 15 months, there really hasn't been an algorithm change that really affects anything if you're doing things the way that you should. Now, a lot of people that are complaining about, algorithm changing are the people following the 2024 playbook, which again, does not work right now. That's why my views are consistent, all my students' views are consistent, and still we're even generating sales organically. A lot of people think that you can't do well organically. That is not the case at all in the slightest, because we're following the principles and the framework that allow us to generate consistent income on TikTok Shop, because again, we're based on principles and why all these things are working, instead of trying to help hack the algorithm with all these bottom of funnel stuff and all these other things, right? So focus on the fundamentals, and that's the only way to have a strategy that works over the long term with TikTok Shop. So here is the thing. After 12 plus months of trial and error personally to figure out what actually works, and most importantly, how do you do it consistently, I can tell you that this strategy is the closest thing to a system that I've ever found on TikTok Shop, right? So the difference between the affiliates that are making 2K a month, 1K a month, and those that are making 20K months consistently, it is not talent, it is not luck, it is strategy and execution. I'll give you a real example. One of my students, Daleen, hit 24K her very first month on TikTok Shop ever because she implemented this exact approach instead of trying to reinvent the wheel. She trusted the system. And so the reality is, you can keep doing what everyone else is doing and hope for different results, or you can actually adapt to what's working right now in 2025. So the sad reality is the opportunity window for early adopters of this strategy will not stay open forever. More people figure it out and do this every single month. So if you do want help actually implementing this system and avoiding the mistakes that keep most affiliates stuck and why they can't make the money that they want to make, the link is in the description. So what we'll do is we'll get on a call. I'll show you exactly how to execute each piece of the strategy. But anyways, thanks for watching. Subscribe if you have not already, and I'll see everybody in the next video.